Hello, everyone, and welcome to Shankopotamus. This is episode 4, Amy and Richards, and that's Jay Hamilton. Hello, Jay.
What's up, everyone? How are we?
So, Jay, we've kind of mixed it up this week, maybe an evolution of where we're heading with all of this. We're going visual. I don't know if this is a vlog, a vodcast, a video. I don't really know what the right label is.
I don't either.
But we're rolling with it.
We're in it.
I think we're just heading this way just to make it a bit more engaging, right, mate? For those that listen, we're still going to put the audio out there. So if you are listening on that right now, the Spotify's and Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, we'll still clip the audio file out and provide that platform, that function. But we figured this would just open up the door, right, mate, to give us more to show, more to talk about, and just engage with our players, our parents, the families, the communities, and put on a better show, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, just a little engagement piece, and maybe we'll see where this takes us. But, should be fun.
Cool. So it looks like we're both in our little home office / spare room, for me anyway. And I'm noticing some pretty cool apparel there on the wall.
Yep.
You want to take us? What's up there? You want to take us through what the collection
take us through? Yeah, take us through. Let's see. I got 1, 2, 3 United scarves up there, obviously, because you can't have too many Manchester United scarves, right? We're top of the table, by the way, just if everybody needed to know that. And then I got a couple Leicester scarves for our trip last year when we all went for that piece. So I got a couple of those. Trip. Yeah. I got the Aston Villa scarf, but on the other side it's Leicester. So that was the game that we went to.
Yeah.
The Leicester Villa game.
The 50-50 scarf.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the rest of the stuff is just kind of just personal faves. So CU Buffs. Wife went there, so we have that. UNLV, which is my alma mater, went there for college. Let's see what else. We got the Edge scarf, Real Edge scarf.
Nice.
And Metro. So I had a little stint at Metro as well. So I have that one. And then national team and my Oklahoma Sooners that I represent. So yeah. Little festive there. And I got a couple over here on my to my right, which you can't see on the screen. Just some random stuff. I got a Broncos one and a couple other random clubs that we've either played in years past, in tournaments and stuff like that. So
maybe it's a good idea to hide the Bronco one at the moment, right?
Yeah, I mean, we keep that away from vision until things can turn around for us for sure. Yes, exactly.
Nice.
So what about yourself? What do you got to?
Well, I was going to say my scarf collection for those that did the YouTube lives that we did it last spring when obviously we were all shut down. We were doing those Saturday morning things and sometimes the lunchtime ones during the week. I've got a similar looking rail hanging in my garage with a ton of different scarves that my wife and I have amassed over years and what have you. But what's behind me right now, which hand do I use? This is my hometown club. This is my jersey. I had it personalized. I've had this jersey. It's probably like 20 years old. My hometown team, Tranmere Rovers, who play in League Two in England. So representing them. Over my other shoulder is one of my Red Bulls jerseys, which is printed for Jonesy, which is a friend, former colleague who tragically lost his life when we were out there on the East Coast, and so I have that to remember him and always have him on my mind. And then the one that my dome is blocking is a framed Manchester United one with Mr. and Mrs. Richards, which the guy that was my best man for me at our wedding got printed up and flew out from England with as kind of a wedding gift. And then there's another. This is just another United shirt. That's hanging. There was,
and it's a proper good number there, 14.
Yeah, that's your number, right?
That's my number. Yeah.
There was up until about a week ago. There was a collapsed up in pieces crib behind me. So clean that up as well.
There you go.
In anticipation for
new arrival
in a couple of weeks. I know. It's gonna be chaotic.
All hands on deck. No more zone defense for you. It's gonna be man to man.
Yeah. So my wife's due next month, so it's gonna be
awesome.
an exciting time.
Yeah, it is.
But let's obviously we're off the back of match day 19 in the Premier League. The big one for us, obviously, the biggest game in English football was Liverpool United, Sunday, 9:30 a.m. Denver time. Obviously, the game finished scoreless. I guess we could start there. Right? It's kind of the biggest game of the weekend. It was. They were looking at it being first v second, but obviously with Leicester winning,
right. Ended first and third.
It was first v third, because Leicester slid into second, and by the end of it all, Liverpool were actually in fourth with Man City winning. But what are your thoughts on? What are your thoughts on how that?
My initial thoughts were this, and we kind of went back and forth during the game, or actually during breaks, because we told each other we weren't talking during the game or responding to texts.
I put my watch. I turned my notifications off on my watch.
Right.
Phone went on silent. I was ignoring my brother. Yeah.
I felt we were quite lucky in the first half to be scoreless, right? I mean, it felt like it was just inevitable that we were going to concede at some point in time, just the way we were playing. And we chatted about this afterwards. I didn't feel like the tactics were correct in terms of how Liverpool likes to play and press and attack out of the back and stuff like that. I felt like it played right into their hands. I do agree with Ollie that we did grow into the game a little bit. And I felt like we probably created the two best chances of the game, to be fair. And in the end, 0-0 points are points, right? We'll take it. We'll move on. But I don't feel like we played the best, and Liverpool are just right now in a funk, right? And scoring goals. And so maybe we caught them on a good time in that.
Yeah, and that was what I think. Even though we were top 3 points ahead at kickoff, and it was like, what better time? Even like I saw clips from Sky over like with Carragher and Neville, bantering back and forth and that. And it was, even Carragher said, it's probably the best time to encounter Liverpool, right? They're in that, either that or you become the team that they get it going again, right? And they smash it for 4 or 5. But the longer this run goes on for Liverpool, right, the more other teams grow in confidence on paper anyway, like going into games. But yeah, I'm with you, like a bit timid maybe. I think Liverpool played well enough to keep us in the first half. I don't think there was like a joke on commentary in the second half over like the park the bus thing. And I was like, well, I don't really think it's that, because Liverpool were like, we couldn't get out. Like United, couldn't get out.
Every time we won the ball back, we gave it right back.
That's how good Liverpool were in that, in the recycling of the possession. We didn't pressure Henderson and Fabinho at all, which seemed intentional. So every time we cleared it, it would come right back. So I like during that first half, I didn't think park the bus was the tactic by any means, but I just think Liverpool were that good in the recycling of possession, and they just didn't have it in the final third to really trouble De Gea. And I think as the second half kicked off and they were doing the stats, Liverpool only put one shot on goal in the first half for all that possession and all the territory and so on and so forth. So you kind of like, well, maybe it'll be one of those United games of second half, they come out, they grow into it, like you said. And I thought, at the end of it.
Well, the second half, Thiago's shot was about the only really great chance that Liverpool created.
Yeah.
Right? Where
Maguire blocked off.
There's a couple of that. I'm just talking about in terms of De Gea having to make a save.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of scrambling.
He's not like another one.
Yeah, a lot of scrambling on the back line. And I felt like that was, it's been, one of our probably weakest points, right, over the last few months. But I felt like that might have been our strongest point over that time.
Definitely, and I think it stemmed maybe from the midweek game against Burnley as well. That was one. Burnley were actually territorially and whatever in the first half were really kind of putting us under siege, and there's that bit of grit and that you play it becomes ugly, but it's
right.
You imagine now going into Carrington, all the boys going into Carrington this morning for regen and a light session, and now like they must be buzzing now. Like,
well, yeah,
the camaraderie that can build, that like for 6 months ago or a year ago when they're saying Pogba's on an island, Marshall's on an island, so on and so forth. Like, Maguire doesn't have a solid partner at the back, or is Maguire like all these pieces now is like it's all galvanized, and they look a bit more of they look more together, right? They look like a team.
Well, and
like a squad,
I'm sure you saw it as well. There was a stat this time last year. I mean, Liverpool was 30 points clear of United, and now it's we're 3 points ahead of them in a year's time. So the growth and even though we might not agree all the time with some of the tactics and personnel that Ole throws out there at times, it seems like it's starting to work and it's gelling and it's coming together a little bit. I don't know if, I think you feel the same way. I don't know if they're good enough to win the Premier League, but I do think that they can be now a consistent top four, where they're at least competing for that top spot on a regular basis now.
Yeah, I'm with you. Obviously, if anyone offers you the title ahead of time, in one of those, would you take it now? It's like, oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But I think it's that wide open. I'm just trying to pull up the league table actually on my other screen.
Well, yeah, and it goes down to like eight or something like that, right? I mean, not 11 points, 11 points down to Villa, right?
Down to Villa, who have 3 games in hand, so that's
right.
If they win them, that's 9 points. Right. Villa could go top once they. Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong one. 9:35. Villa go to 35, which is City. Yeah, it's anyone's in it. I think it's that who can put a run together.
Right.
At the right time, right? The early runs is fine. The middle, now we're on a bit of a run. But yeah, it's who's going to put a run together in March, April time.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like City's doing it right now, right?
That's where I was just going to head
they're on 8 in a row, right? And but there's still half the season to play still.
Yeah, we're not even 19. It'll be the next round is to get to 19 games is the middleweight. It's 38 games. So
right.
And even that makes me wonder, like, if United win the next game and they'll have played 19, they'll hit 40 points. So if you double that and think you're halfway through, like, are they really going to win the league on 80? Like, if they just replicate the record, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, who's going to win the league on 80 points?
Yeah, the last few years, it's been 90 plus, right? And there was those years that it was over 100.
So who's gonna put that run together to get towards that 90-point mark? 80 points isn't going to win the league.
I don't think so.
But anyway, City went up to second with a City performance of old against Palace there right after the United game. Yeah, and I guess we're talking like a lot of clubs, like we're saying about form. A month ago, City are down there 7th and 8th with a couple of games because they missed a few with what have you. But are they back? Like, do you think it's clicking and they now Liverpool?
I think everybody,
maybe, and they're like, it's go time. Like, it's our title. It's there for the taking.
Well, it seems like they're in the best form, right? Odds makers have put them way up there in terms of of winning the league. They seem like they've gotten through their injury piece and COVID piece and all that stuff that they dealt with a few weeks back. So, I think really the only missing piece that they don't have is Aguero. That central number 9 that they've really needed over the years, and so but everything else is gelling. I mean, backline's quality, Stones and Diaz, and it's a well-oiled machine right now.
I've still got this league table. They are the stingiest defense.
Yeah.
13 goals conceded in 17. The next best is Villa, who've only conceded 16, but they say they have 2 games in hand, so that's even that could be false because they could give up.
Right.
They could still win, but obviously maybe not the clean sheet. But
right.
Yeah, City, man, the back.
Yeah, I mean, it pains me, but yeah, I mean, it seems like it's going in that direction, and I right now in their form, I would say it's their title to lose, right?
Especially because that squad have been there, right? I think we've talked on another episode, right, about that, just the belief and the act like you've been there, and it's like, well, they have been there. They know what it takes, right? They know what it takes to go toe to toe if it's a close race, or they know what it takes to pull away and really go dominate. And the last few games has been exactly that, right? It's the City of the last couple of years of how many will they score, rather than are they going to score? But which was their struggle a few weeks ago, right? So
exactly.
So it just goes to show you put the work in on the training ground, and eventually it can bear fruit. So
I want to talk about obviously probably the biggest news of the weekend, with Wing, but I want to get your thoughts on kind of your biggest kind of surprise on the weekend. Did you have one? And if so, what was it?
Probably the one, I don't know, maybe the one we all woke up to. I texted you once we were up, the old don't bet on the early game.
Oh yeah, the West Brom Wolves.
Yeah, maybe that one.
Yeah.
The 5:30 a.m. game, Wolves against West Brom. Big Sam, everyone sung his praises. He got that result against Liverpool right off the bat, and then has been tanked a couple of times, and but they've gone and dug in. Bit of a derby there. That's kind of the Midlands, the Black Country, it's called, the region where Wolves is. And West Bromwich. So a bit of a derby as well. I know it's hard to do derbies now with no fans and all that, because there's not that bite with 40, 50, 60,000 people. But ultimately, geographically, that's a bit of a rivalry, and for Big Sam to go out and win that one and come from behind. They were 2-1 down. I believe was the halftime score. So to go out second half after the chat in the locker room, and then come out with a victory, and knowing that they're one of the favourites to be on the receiving end of the relegation battle is, I guess I didn't. I'll pick him anyway. There wasn't a single person that picked West Brom in the RCE pick 'em. So that goes to show even our listeners and our the members that are taking part in that follow the league. Perhaps that was the surprise. We've got 20 plus people that play every week in Pick'em. Not a single one.
No, I know. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, you have one yourself?
For me, I would agree with you on that one. If I had to pick another one, maybe just the form that Leeds is in and not scoring goals. I mean, that was the biggest talking point at the beginning of the season, right? How free flowing and, magical their attack is, and getting forward and just all out press and scoring goals. And the last 3 games, they haven't scored a goal, right?
And against one of those against the 4th division team.
Exactly, right. So it's like one of those things, like you just don't. It's like flippable coin with those guys right now. In terms of, we figured it would be that way against those top tier clubs, but with this weekend with Brighton, I mean, I don't consider them in that top tier group, and you can't generate goals in that game is an issue, right? So, that would probably be my biggest one for sure is probably that one, the West Brom game for sure. Don't bet on the early game, right? Just like you said it all. You said it perfectly.
Woke up to that bad news of there's one of my picks gone.
Yeah.
Of which this is my worst week for Pick'em. I got 3 correct out of 8.
I think I got 4. So
I just updated
I think I rallied
now. So
I think I rallied at the end, but I didn't catch anybody.
I just updated that form, so everyone that's that listens and watches this now video version, we put the live leaderboard on the Edge website. So you click the Play Development tab from the homepage and scroll down a little, and we've kind of embedded that. Just a Google sheet, nothing too fancy, or kind of no frills. It's just just a Google sheet, and it displays, and so we have that live leaderboard up there at the moment. So
I want you, so most everybody knows, that follows soccer, Wayne Rooney announced his retirement this weekend, right? Just doing the manager thing now with Derby. He personally is one of my all-time favorite footballers. I just remember him as a kid and watching him, and it was, my dog's named after him, for crying out loud. So, but living in England as a kid and everything, you have some personal experience with Mr. Rooney. So, why don't you give our listeners that little story before we move on to our interview with Kyle Haynes.
So as a kid, I'm going to try and set the scene, I guess, and give everyone the idea of the level. So it makes me think of like ODP equivalent, kind of a regional thing, but it's called the schoolboys. It's called schoolboy football. So you play through your school, you go to a tryout, and you represent your district that you live in or you go to school in. So where I'm from, just over the water from Liverpool, and I guess included in the Liverpool City region, is the Wirral, which is what's on my teacup right here, the posh bit. It's not that posh, but that's what people say. And so I played for Wirral schoolboys, under 10s, U10s, U11s. It took a break, 12s through 12, 13, 14. I don't really know why. Maybe it's just there was no one to run it. I think it's kind of volunteer led and volunteer ran and whatever. So there was a number of years that it just doesn't take place, and those years are big. You start high school in 7th grade in England, so there's a longer period when you're in high school. So I think maybe something to do with that as well. And you pick it up again around U15, and you play 15, 16, 17s. So U10 and 11. Wayne Rooney was playing for Liverpool schoolboys, nothing to do with Liverpool Football Club, just the region, the area, the district that he was from was Liverpool, like city of Liverpool. Right. And then you have other areas around, kind of almost the suburbs, if you will, as Sefton, Knowsley, St. Helens, Kirkby, or other areas are in the greater kind of Liverpool city metro area. So Wayne played for Liverpool schoolboys, and I played against him several times, and there was talk even when he was 9 and 10. There's talk of like Liverpool and Everton are fighting over him. They're making these you hear about it with these NCAA violations of like parents are getting a car, someone's getting a house, like there's gifts being thrown around to like please sign, please come play for
friends of the program.
Yeah, like please come play for us type of thing. But he played for Everton all the way through, in terms of like the academy system. But yeah, I played against him in the schoolboys multiple times, and he was just unbelievable. No one could stop him. Every time we played him, he scored the goals that won the game. To a man or to a boy, we were probably about even. Us and Liverpool were the two best teams in the little league that we played in. We used to play on Saturday mornings, and your club soccer was always on a Sunday. So, it was always Liverpool and Wirral were 1 and 2, and it was always them at 1 in those couple of years because of Wayne Rooney. So, my little claim to fame on Wazza is this fantastic career that he had might not have happened because I got frustrated one game when I was 9, and he was on the dribble and the ball had popped up on a dodgy pitch or whatever, and I just went in full-blooded, annoyed, red mist as a 9-year-old, upset that he was scoring all the goals. Got my first yellow card from fouling him, so that's my little claim to fame.
There you go.
On Penny Lane playing field, so the very famous Penny Lane, that's one of the Beatles songs. There's some athletic fields there. That's where Liverpool schoolboys played, up there in Liverpool. So that's my little claim to fame was getting my first yellow card at 9. So all the 9-year-olds out there, don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid.
It's not the end of the world.
You can go foul your own Wayne Rooney.
Yeah, It's not the end of the world if you get a yellow. That's what the ref's there for, right? So
right, exactly.
So yeah, that's my little story. And then Waz obviously went on to do what he's done, man. It was phenomenal to watch. Even I mean, I'm a month younger than him. His birthday's, he was born October 85 and I'm November 85. So so even just to follow his career, you know, knowing who he was, being from the area, he signs at 16, he gets on the field, he scores the goal against Arsenal. Right. There's me and I'm sat in high school like, oh, I played against him.
right.
So yeah, unbelievable career though, right? England's top scorer, Manchester United's top scorer, just like came this side and dabbled in the MLS and wondered if he'd ship the whole family out here and settle, but obviously not. He's gone back and now he's going to go into management. So
right, yep, it's awesome, great career.
Yep. I mean, we can't take nothing away from him, right? Like,
no.
And yeah, to do it in the manner that he played, I think is impressive as well. Like, just so tenacious and aggressive, assertive. Just, you know, heart on the sleeve. You know, every minute, pretty much of every game. Took a few red cards himself, didn't he? In his professional career, you saw that the blood boil, but just the passion and the love of the game, right? It's everything that we tell kids to try and replicate or to try and look towards. And it just goes to show that you can, you know, good things can come if you care enough and you're passionate enough and you work hard and all that good stuff. So
right.
So yeah, fair play, Waz. Enjoy retirement.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though he's still in the
game. Now he's got more stress, right?
Yeah, now he's a coach.
Managing the team now, so it's more stressful than playing. So
yeah. So
welcome to the other side.
Yeah, right then. So for everyone watching, listening, we are going to be back pretty soon with an interview with our new hire boys associate competitive director of coaching.
Yep.
Something like that, right?
Yep. Something. Yeah.
Associate boys director. We like mix the words up every time.
I know.
But anyway, Kyle Haynes, who joined the club January 1, is going to be on with us pretty soon here. We're looking forward to having everyone getting a little snapshot of Kyle, getting to know him, getting to know where he's come from, what his past is, what his likes and dislikes are, how he takes his coffee, because we all like a cup of coffee. Well, maybe not you, Jay, but
I don't.
Yeah. All right, so everyone, stay in with us, stay tuned. We'll be back with Kyle Haynes pretty soon. Okay, everyone, welcome back to Shankopotamus. This is episode 4, and we are joined for an interview today with our new hired boys associate director of coaching, Mr. Kyle Haynes. Hi, Kyle.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, mate.
Absolutely.
Of course. Exciting time for the club, right? With a couple of staff have been added, and we're looking forward to hopefully getting back out on the field here pretty soon. So, Kyle, tell us about yourself, who you are, and give everyone a bit of a synopsis of Kyle.
Yeah. So quickly, again, name's Kyle Haynes. 35. I'm married to my wife, and we've got a daughter who, interestingly enough, will be turning 3 on Thursday. So that's a big day for us. Big number 3. She's 3, more like 3 going on 11 or 12. But
yep. That's how it works.
I'm still enjoying having to wait for those years to come by. And then we've got 2 dogs as well that are pretty wild. So our house is nice and crazy. That's pretty quick about me, though. 2 dogs, Oliver and Sven. One's a German Shorthair Pointer, and the other one's an English Pointer. So if any of you out there know about those, you can imagine. So yeah, not too much more about me.
Cool. Just to kind of, since you're new, and I know we made an introduction with a press release and stuff with the club and stuff, but kind of tell everybody, your current role, what you're going to be doing with the club now, and maybe teams you coach and stuff like that.
Yeah. So just recently hired on as the new associate director of coaching for boys on the competitive side, U11 through U19. So that'll be my primary role, working with our director, James. And then, my first, I guess you call it, coaching assignment with the group, I'll be with our 07 select boys team, our under 14s. And so that'll be my first group that I'm with for this spring. Bit of a unique situation coming in, obviously mid-year for them. So, but exciting. I've been able to have one session with them so far. So that's good. And hopefully, weather permitting, we get more soon.
Right.
So, it's always the weather.
Right.
But yeah, I've really been coaching myself since about high school, just bits and pieces here and there, private trainings, things. We've all done things like that. Right. And spent a lot of time on the goalkeeping side, but, and then for about 4 or 5 years, I worked as we called ourselves mentors, but at a grassroots facility called Game Only Sports. There might be some older kids from this club that have made their way up there every once in a while. But, and then I spent the previous 4 years coaching at Broomfield Soccer Club, and now I'm here.
Awesome. Well, welcome.
Yeah.
That's a good coaching assignment to get started as well, right, with us.
Man, you're telling me, right? Like yeah. I told the boys, I was like, I'm really flattered to be here. You guys have the easy task of just going out and playing. I've got to be the one to jump in with the culture that's already been created at this group. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. They're a good group of boys. I'm really just more excited to get them all out there. We've had, we've got different interests and multi-sport players. So it'll be nice when we all get all of them out there.
Definitely. So tell us a bit about your own youth career, mate. There was some information obviously in our press release, but if give our kind of viewers, listeners, your story through your playing career.
Yeah, so I played locally, and it's a pretty simple story, but I started out actually in the Arvada Soccer Association on the rec side back in the reversible jersey days. But Stinger was my home, and then I went from that to the competitive side and played for the old Arvada United, which I think my first year with Arvada United was the first year of Arvada United after the Arvada Eagles kind of went away. Then I moved to Colorado Legends. And when those two clubs merged, I ended up playing for the first installment of what Edge is, way back when. And then I finished out my club career with Colorado Extreme, which would be like Rapids probably now.
Yeah, that morphed into Storm, right?
Yeah,
after Extreme.
Yep. So I finished my club out there. I played on my high school ball at Broomfield High School. That was a good experience. And then went on to play collegiately down in Arizona at Yavapai College. It was a junior college. And then after that, I played a couple years like some semi-pro ball, maybe like not as involved as it is today, but probably the equivalent of like what the Switchbacks are today. So that's my youth career in a nutshell, really.
Yeah, I played at just speaking of Yavapai, I played at UNLV, and we would always get a lot of transfers.
Yep.
After their second year to come that direction, because it was fairly close in proximity to Vegas and all that stuff. So very familiar with that, and it was always a good program, the JUCO program. You guys always competed to the highest levels pretty much every year.
Yeah, it was good. The years I was there, UNLV was actually our preseason trip
right.
Out to Vegas preseason, and then I was fortunate enough to play with a lot of quality players there. Some that went on to play professionally, internationally. One of them is currently playing professionally right now. So it was a good experience for sure.
Yep. Tell us. Kind of as a player, so 2-part question here. As a player, kind of what would be considered your best memory as a player, and then as a coach, do you have a favorite memory or a best memory for that?
Yeah, definitely. The player memory is a funny one because there's a couple, obviously, right? I was fortunate enough to, speaking of Yavapai, play in a national final, a collegiate national final. We didn't win the game, but it's always a nice memory to look back on, to think you were part of the group that got there, and right. So that's good. I was able to be a part of another kind of a national championship run with the ODP format, which was always fun. But probably one of my favorite memories was being a part of Tony DeChico's Soccer Plus camps for goalkeepers, and it wasn't anything sponsored by US Soccer or anything like that, but it quickly, as the years went by, at least when I was in high school, was probably like the cream of the crop. And I was able to get invited to their advanced national training center for goalkeepers 2 years in a row, which was really just an amazing experience, being trained by national team staff, people like Tony DeChico, who obviously, were at the highest of the highest, international players, and it's just some of the best goalkeepers in the country at the time. So I would say being a part of that environment and that group was probably a really, really positive and really amazing experience for me personally.
That's awesome.
And then, you're talking about coaching memories too, yes?
Yeah. Do you have a favorite coach memory?
So this is kind of I got a little story. So for time's sake, I'll keep it relatively short because I'm probably sure I could talk about this a long time. But the actual coaching memory doesn't come from when I was actually technically coaching. It's from my time at Game Only Sports when I was a mentor there. But we had a young girl. I won't say her name or anything, but when she came in, when this was probably 2012-ish, 2013, when she joined our group, the age group that she joined in on was probably our best age group. We out of that age group, we had kids that left for Division I colleges. We had high school All-Americans in that group. It wasn't just your typical grassroots street soccer group, right? It was an oddly talented group of individuals all in one. And when she joined us, she was just so awkward, preteen, didn't really know anything about the game. And the group that she was coming into, they were all diehard, hardcore soccer fanatics, both on the field and off, and that they basically lived the game. And so, as the days passed and the weeks passed, turned into months and then years, watching her grow into what she became was probably the goal of what we were trying to achieve, but also kind of that crowning moment for us as mentors, watching somebody in our environment that we created. Because she didn't play club soccer, so the rest of these kids all had club soccer and high school soccer to go to. But over a course of like 4 or 5 years, by the time she graduated, she went from this awkward, gangly, sort of just uninspired, not really sure what she's supposed to be doing on the soccer field type of player to playing, for her varsity soccer team in high school, playing for her club team, being a leader at our facility, being a mentor. She came back and was mentoring kids after that. And so as far as a coaching moment for me, watching her grow up and seeing what an inclusive environment can do at a grassroots level, at a street soccer level, it really showed us a couple of things. And, those kids that she was with, they could have just, thrown her to the wolves. They could have been mean. They could have been evil to her. We all see it, right? We see that happen, especially in our game a lot. And, they were extremely inviting and really showed the inclusive environment that we had created. And it turns out that she didn't leave the place hating the game or never wanting to come back. She actually grew into it and grew into a really fine young woman out of it, which was probably one of my favorite moments so far.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool. So let's bring it back to you then. Random fun fact or facts if you've got multiple.
Yeah, I'm a pretty basic human being, but and I was listening to the Coach Dave interview, and I was thinking, man, I'm just a less cooler version of Coach Dave. So shout out to Coach Dave there. But no, music is kind of my escape. After soccer and after family and spending time with them as much as possible. Music's kind of my thing. And for a while, I was in a band as an adult. I was in band as a kid, but I was in a band. For a while, I played bass and I sang in that band. We didn't do anything crazy in terms of shows or anything, but it was a good time and it was a chance for me to escape. But I love music. Now I don't play in that band anymore, but I do enjoy my music, and I'm actually just starting a record collection now. I've always kind of been into vinyl, but I never really had the means to purchase or go after it. So now I'm starting. I bought myself a nice little beginner record player and got some records now. And I actually just picked up a really cool one the other day with my daughter. We went to the local record shop down the street, and it's a limited edition Incubus. I don't know if you guys know Incubus, but limited edition Make Yourself album. There was only like 2,000 of them made, and
wow,
it's like number 976, I think. And it's on purple vinyl. It's just a really cool little thing. So I don't buy my vinyl to just let it sit on the shelf either. So yeah, that's probably the fun fact about me is it's just a rock and roll guy in a band,
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Nothing wrong with rocking out every now and then.
Still like
exactly. Right. Give us some of your favorite sports teams, in all sports.
This is the fun
teams,
one.
Teams
right?
that you follow.
Especially in this club, the Real Colorado Edge Red Devils, as it was.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I guess if I had to say I'm a fan of anybody on the soccer side of things, it's probably Chelsea. That was ingrained in me way back in like 2001, 2002 through some buddies, and I've been a fan ever since. So, at least I can say I was pre-Mourinho, but having him around and pre-Abramovich, there's nothing wrong with that either. But we all become fans when we become fans. But yeah, so Chelsea for sure. Definitely a Colorado Buffs fan, pretty much across the board. Started going to games when I was 2-3 years old, and now as I've gotten older, I've certainly loved the football team, of course, but basketball, volleyball, the soccer program. The soccer program for me, I have ties to that just because I actually played for their assistant coach in club, Dave Morgan. So it's always nice to go up there and see him and talk to him and get his thoughts and just see how he's doing. And then I'm a big hockey fan too. Love hockey. So Denver Pioneers, always. That's where I actually learned how to sing the national anthem at Pio games as a kid. Nice. And then huge Blackhawks fan. So living in Colorado, born and raised, not an Avs fan. I'm a huge Blackhawks fan. So those are the teams that I support for sure.
Nice. So amongst that, and maybe current or retired or whatever, you have a favorite athlete, one above all, or if you have kind of, I guess it was Dave, right? That when we chatted with him, he had multiple favorite athletes from the sport. So whichever way you want to go with it.
Again, I'm much like my musical taste, my taste in athletics is pretty eclectic as well. So again, a less cooler version of Dave. I have multiple as well, but when I was playing, I sort of modeled myself or tried to play like a combination. I always viewed myself as a combination between Petr Cech and Jens Lehmann. So those, as far as goalkeepers for me, those are the two that I idolized and that will always be favorites of mine. Big, tall, commanding guys, no fear. Sort of revolutionized the game in those early 2000s years after the millennium as far as goalkeepers are concerned. Definitely Patrick Kane would be another one for me from the Blackhawks. He's starting to come to the twilight of his career a little bit, but he'll always be a favorite of mine. And then this will be a throwback that not a lot of people might or may not know about, but huge fan of the old Brazilian soccer player Socrates. Of those Brazilian teams that were like the best Brazilian teams never to win a World Cup, he was always sort of that guy that probably should have got a little bit more attention, but didn't. I always liked him because, he was so amazing on the field. He was almost majestic, this big, tall, lanky guy that just sort of floated across the field. His passing ability was something that I always tried to, it just sort of stuck in my mind. And then, but he also had other interests. That guy basically was a revolutionary for the country of Brazil. And he changed the way their politics were and the way that people viewed being a citizen of Brazil. And he was at the forefront of that before he died. So he's certainly a favorite of mine. If you've never heard of him, look him up. Big poofy hair with a headband. Original headband guy. So,
I was gonna say.
But he was with those guys like Zico and all those Brazilian teams of the early to mid 80s that were just so good but never won anything on the world stage. So big player for me when I was growing up.
Perfect. All right, so we're just gonna kind of run through some questions here. We didn't give you these because we want to put you on the spot.
Fair. That's fair enough. Put me on the spot.
So I'm going to give you probably a handful, and then Ian will give you a handful here. So what's your biggest pet peeve?
Being late. My dad always used to say, if you're late, you could have left earlier. So I know that's kind of crass, but definitely
if you're early, you're on time.
Yeah, exactly.
You're on time, you're late. Yep,
exactly.
That was instilled in me. Probably all of us at some point in time with our.
Even I get nervous if I know if I'm thinking I'm gonna be late. It makes me nervous.
Yeah.
So
I hate it. Well, I always tell this story, and I'm sure you've heard it. My dad would always make me we'd be an hour and a half before games and stuff, and I just hated it. I just complained to him all the time about being there early, and now it's like it's instilled in me that I feel the same way. I can't stand it.
Yep.
What's favorite TV show that you like follow?
Oh man,
can't get enough of.
I'm more into that sort of slapstick comedy type of stuff. So I'm a big fan of, like Archer, Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Probably those two. My favorite. This might make people raise an eyebrow at me, but I really like Scrubs too. That show was hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good show.
Amazing. I actually met Donald Faison. The other half of that duo. I met Donald Faison in Los Angeles at the Griddle on Sunset Boulevard, eating breakfast one morning. So, but yeah, Scrubs, Archer, and Always Sunny are probably my favorite shows.
Nice.
I like Scrubs. I used to watch that. I was like late high school,
Yeah.
college. I think we're similar in age, Kyle. Yeah, so I remember that back in. Yeah,
great
didn't
show.
Didn't have a lot to do if I had my lectures done for the day. So I'm like, Scrubs. Just giggle to myself. It was hilarious.
2-parter here, and I think we're still in the holiday season, so I think I can say this. Favorite movie, and then your favorite holiday movie.
Again, probably going to get some eyebrows. Not a big holiday movie guy. I got to be honest with you. Sorry not to be able to play along there. I guess I would say Christmas Vacation. If I had to choose one, love the Chevy Chase, love the Vacation series. So when they took that one holiday, I mean, it's
the best one by far, right? I mean,
it's one of those among some of the other ones that we've all seen that you can just quote with your buddies, right?
Yeah.
There's just one-liners galore in there. But probably favorite movie for me would have to be Super Troopers. Love Super Troopers. Again, one-liners. My favorite, a lot of my favorites go back to the college days, the late high school, college days, when you would just walk down the dorm hallway and you wouldn't even have a conversation. A normal conversation would be a conversation of one-liners, and so probably Super Troopers is one of my favorites.
That's awesome. 2 left for me. So first one, time travel. If you could time travel, where are you going?
80s. I'm a huge hair metal guy, and I think being a part of that would have been fun. For 2 different reasons. The music, while maybe not on the greatest of all time genres and greatest of all time decades of music, still probably would have been a fun era to be a part of. And then just the soccer too. I think it was a little bit different back then, and it suits my mentality a little bit more back then. In terms of the way the game was played and how individuals approached the game. And again, Socrates in there, right? So definitely the 80s. Grow some long hair and some hairspray.
Yep, I feel you. I'm a huge 80s music guy as well. If I'm not listening in my car, if I'm not listening to sports radio, I have 80s on, and it just drives my family nuts. So it's awesome. I love it. Can't get enough.
That's even more reason to do it.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
So, I know that feeling of driving people crazy with my music.
Yeah. Last one for me. We've asked everybody this, so it's kind of a fun one. When there's a movie made about you, who's playing you?
See, and this is the best part about being on the 4th episode. I've had a chance to think about this.
You've had a chance to listen.
It's coming.
Yeah. So this one's a good one. I'm gonna say Jeff Daniels.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I think Jeff Daniels could exemplify the early years of myself, sort of those immature, dumb and years. And then obviously now move into a little bit more of a newsroom idea. So, I think Jeff Daniels would be a person who could showcase me from beginning to now or beginning to end, if it ever needed to happen.
Perfect. I love it. Love it.
Yeah. All right, then back to me. We're going to do the rivalries, I think, Jay.
Yeah, let's do that one.
That we didn't quite come out on some of the other recordings because the audio didn't match up, but now we've changed this format and we're kind of filming as we'll put Kyle on the spot here. So Kyle, this is I'm going to give you 2 choices and just fire one answer back at me. We're going to do team rivalries. There's 8 or 9 in there. Just a bit of fun. All right, are you ready?
Yep.
I will start. We'll start with the big one. United or City?
Oh gosh. Yeah, probably United. Probably United.
All right, thanks, mate. Good choice. Arsenal or Spurs?
Which one?
Arsenal or Spurs?
Ugh.
I know, North London, and you're a West London guy.
Arsenal, definitely Arsenal. Just this long term, Arsenal.
All right. Newcastle or Sunderland?
You know what?
Big
I'm going to say Sunderland. I'm going to say Sunderland. Definitely love to see them back into things. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but Sunderland.
No. Barcelona or Real Madrid?
Real Madrid, definitely. Love the capital. Love the capital. Love Los Blancos.
Inter Milan or AC Milan?
Ooh, hopefully there's no supporters in this one. Definitely AC.
Currently
Milan,
top of the league as well.
Milan.
Dortmund or Bayern?
Dortmund. Love Bayern as well, but Dortmund.
Yeah, like most recent rivals, right? Not necessarily a derby on that one, but still. Sporting Lisbon or Benfica?
Benfica. Love the youth academy and what they do over there with their youth. Don't know too much about the actual like Portuguese league, but definitely love the youth side of Benfica.
Last soccer one: Rangers or Celtic up in Scotland? The old firm.
Celtic.
All right. And then I threw this just one in because it's I guess applies over this side. Yankees or Red Sox?
Oh, Red Sox, definitely. I'd rather be in Boston than New York.
Got ya. All right then, that's me done with the rivalries. Thanks, mate.
Those are good rivalries.
Yeah.
And we gotta add some more in, I'm sure. I put on the little list that I read off that I don't know NFL ones.
Right.
So I apologize to anyone who's like, what about the I don't even know. Like,
but NFL rivalries.
What about the Eagles? What about the Eagles and the Giants? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, but like a lot of people talk about like the Cowboys and the Redskins as being a rivalry, but they're like 2,500 miles apart.
Yeah.
You know, it's a rivalry for the NFL.
Yeah. Divisional.
It's divisional rivalries more so than like proximity, right? Yeah.
I prefer the proximity. I prefer being able to walk like Merseyside, you know, where you're literally going to work with somebody, right?
Right.
Yeah. Not like the Manchester derby, because you know United's not even Manchester, so. But
yeah, we are.
I'm just giving you guys a hard time for that.
That's why it's called Old Trafford.
Yeah.
We got to experience that. We did saying about Merseyside when we did our little coaching trip last year. We did the tour of Anfield and walked across the park to go to an Everton game.
I bet that was amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was against Chelsea, actually. They played.
Yeah, it was.
Watched them against Chelsea last pre-Christmas.
This one of Pulisic's first games, I believe, too, wasn't it?
Yeah. So Ancelotti, I think, had been announced, but it was Ferguson's last game as like the interim manager. If you remember that game, Everton won 3-1. Lunchtime, early kickoff. So, but yeah, those in city rivalries where you can literally just throw a ball and hit the other stadium is pretty special.
Didn't they do something out there in Liverpool where they measured it in scarves, the distance, and it was something like it was like 310 scarves or something like that across the park. They tied a bunch of scarves together across the park.
I think I might have looked it up once. I think the width of Stenger, east to west, is about the distance.
Right. I mean,
imagine on the east and west end of Stenger having 240,000+
massive stadiums. Yeah.
So, to give everyone a reference on that, but we might get cut off here, so we're running. We got about a minute left, so I want to just thank you for your time, Kyle, and welcome you again to the club. Looking forward to being out there on the field with you and having you involved in what I do, obviously for the club, and I'm sure Jay.
Absolutely, yep. Excited to have you, buddy. So
definitely. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on today. And again, I'll echo those words. I'm excited to be here. This is a fun new challenge for me, and I'm ready to get going. So excited. Thanks again, guys.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it.
Stay on with Shankopotamus because we've got a little whiteboard edition coming up after a quick break. So we'll see you on the other side. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special Shankopotamus whiteboard edition. I'm Ian Richards. That's Jay Hamilton. And we are down in the Dungeon of the Edge office with our trusty whiteboard. And we're going to do a little series on different 11v11, 9v9, and 7v7 formations. And we are today going to start with the classic 4-4-2, the one that the 11v11 formation I think everyone is familiar with, whether it be the professional game, the youth game, your own youth experience. Jay, we're going to go through numbering system. We're going to go through a couple of variants of a 4-4-2 and the relationship between players within that formation. And as we do more of these whiteboard editions, we'll go through different formations and kind of the strengths of some of those layouts. So here we go. Okay, so we are going to go right in with the numbering system. All you players at the Edge Club know that every formation that we do, each position represents a number. So in a 4-4-2, this one is probably the only one that will never change, right?
Right.
The guy with or girl with the gloves on is the number one. A flat 4 defensive line. Our right defender is 2. Our 2 central defenders are 4 and 5, and our left defender is 3. We move into the midfield line. Right midfielder at 7, 6 and 8 for the central midfielders, and 11 out on the left wing, and then 9 and 10 up top to complete that 4-4-2 formation. So Jake, tell us a bit about why we do the numbers and where that's not necessarily the history of it or where it's come from, but just we were just talking and we often talk about different formations.
The biggest thing why we do it is because it just, for me, I think it just helps the kids learn the position and learn the area where they're trying to play, right? So if you give them a number and say, okay, you're on the left side of the field and this is your role, I think it's easier for a younger player to understand their responsibilities and what they're trying to accomplish and within the team and stuff like that. So, having that structure down for them a little bit, opposed to saying you're a center midfielder, telling a 10-year-old kid or 11-year-old kid that, I mean, who knows where they're going to end up on the field at any point in time, right? So if you give them some structure, if you're a holding mid or an attacking mid, you're on the right side, you're on the left side, it kind of gives them that responsibility of knowing where to be and what to do during those times.
Yep. And I think I just went through it as I'm listing the numbers. I'm like right defender, left defender, and the wording in those labels I think can often lead to the confusion, right?
Just makes it easier, right?
The numbering kind of narrows that down to an area of the field, not a specific point at the field, but just the general area, general zone. And as players develop through systems and gain experience, then they understand. As we'll go to other formations in future episodes.
Well, and I think also the nice structure of it being too is, with any type of platform, right? There's opportunities for kids to move teams and travel teams and stuff like that. So having that base down with every single team, so when a new kid comes in, they know exactly what that position is when they're asked to do it and stuff like that. So it just makes those transitions a little bit easier as well.
Exactly. So I think I'll jump in with that right away. So like a 2 in a 4-4-2, like to your point, if someone came in from even out of club, right? Because this is kind of a generic, almost worldwide system. I know that back in England when I was growing up, the 4 and the 6 was the other way around. I don't actually know if that's still the same, but 5 and 6 were the centre defenders, and 4 and 8 were actually the centre midfielders. Because I wore 4 when I was a kid. And 10.
Or the jersey number of the position you normally play.
Yeah. That's where this. I think this all originates from. Like I remember playing on a team, and I wore number 4 because I was a number 4, right? And my teammate that played out as a right midfielder wore number 7, and that's I think now where this base comes from, and where all the other systems have developed from. Okay, so we've set up our whiteboard here, our 4-4-2, which is the blue numbers attacking up the diagram. Jay's going to handle decisions and looks for the attacking team, Jay's team. I've written the opposing team's formation in pink, and my team is playing in a 4-3-3, which we'll talk about in another episode about the pros of playing in that system. But for the purpose of this episode in 4-4-2, we're going to manipulate our whiteboard around so that the ball is in a certain area, and I'm going to move the pink players, or what I would do as the pink coach, and then we'll have Jay's insight on the strengths of the 4-4-2 and the particular shape that we're in, and how we can get the ball from our goalkeeper in a goal kick to hopefully create an attacking opportunity. So, Jay, you have the ball.
Perfect. Yeah, we have a goal kick there, and obviously we see the blue setup here. We kind of with the new rule where the players can be in the box on the goal kick. Right, we're going to have our 4 and our 5 split to either side of the goalkeeper. We have those two options, and then everybody else is kind of set up accordingly. It almost kind of looks, if you take this piece apart, it almost looks like a 4-3-3, but it's just because of the building piece as we go. So we're just going to kind of role play a little bit and kind of diagram some stuff. So, let's say, Ian, just for the case of the argument, we play out to the 5. What are you going to instruct your team to do playing out to that player?
I'll start up at the top. So I'm going to take my 9, and I am going to instruct, and this will be something that obviously you work on in practice as well. I'm going to instruct my 9 to bend their run to potentially eliminate the 5's opportunity to go back to the goalkeeper. So halving the field. So if my 9 ends up here, we could almost eliminate this half of the field as a short passing opportunity for this player down here.
So by them doing that, right, it kind of eliminates, like Ian said, half the field for us. So what we're going to ask our players to do now is, our 2 is now probably, starting points there, probably going to come back into this space just to give a different angle and a different look, right? So it's an easier pass, right? And maybe forcing their 11 with their outside player to cheat into this space a little bit to maybe open up more of this space for us to get into. So obviously we can have the easy option to play out, okay? If the 11 bites on that situation, right, we can play into the 7, maybe the 10 comes into this space. Also with the 9 leaving the 6, right, the 6 can come over, right, and into that space and help us out. Just continue to build and keep possession in that platform.
Awesome. So my next move, if we just continue this on, if we're going high press, right, like the popular kind of in vogue, go win the ball back quickly, go steal it close to the opposition, as close to the opposition as you can. As Jay highlighted there with the 2, if I kind of almost play man coverage, man to man, and my 11 follows that 2 in and kind of makes that a very tight pressure, high pressure 1v1.
Right.
What sort of areas of the field can you train and your centre halves and your players just in general to look for now?
Yeah, I think now, your 6 and your 10 come into play, right? Because, if you're pressing that player, it's really going to be, if you play into that player, the only option is to play back, potentially. Yeah, we keep possession, but is it really doing anything for us? So now we're probably trying to bypass that player and looking for a 6 or a 10, and then maybe with your high press, right? Let's say our 6 comes into this space here, right? To play that pass there. Now maybe releasing that 2, right? Since you're overplaying a little bit in that situation, helps you get out of that situation. Playing the 6 to the 7, maybe that's an option as well. Maybe even bypassing the 6 and going all the way to the 10 in that situation is another option as well. But just, basically using your press against that and trying to find our way to get out. And last resort, right, in any type of situation, we tell our kids under pressure, right, just maybe it's a long ball, maybe you're trying to find the 9, maybe you're trying to find the 7 and bypass players to bypass that press that you're trying to incorporate into your system.
Yeah. I think particularly in this setup, right, and the kind of the movements and the actions of the opponent will often, I say to my players all the time, who really decides where the ball goes. and ultimately the simplistic answer is, well, player with the ball is going to make that pass, but you have to make your decision based on pressure. So if we, I guess in the 4-4-2, knowing you have the two centers that split, the fullback that can check down, that should, maybe we can get a different color in here. That's more than likely if this 11's here. We're talking about this kind of space now, right? Yeah. To take advantage of. Yeah. Whereas on the flip side, the 11 stays, let's say you're in that kind of mid block or you're against a team that isn't, they retreat back because you've had success in the build, and now this player is staying a little lower. Obviously, then this space is the area that we can complete those passes and maybe incrementally advance the ball down the field or up the field. So yeah.
All right, now we're going to discuss another 4-4-2 situation, another formation, just a variant of what we just went through. So we're going to talk about the 4-4-2 diamond, and a diamond being the diamond in the midfield. And once again, we'll go through the number system and kind of explain our reasoning behind everything. So goalkeeper number 1 as normal, and then the same back 4 setup that you saw in our previous setup, right? So right back is 2, left back is 3, center backs are 4, 5. Through the midfield and up top is where it gets a little bit different for us in terms of just explaining things to our kids and stuff like that. So in the diamond midfield, we're going to play with a 6, which is usually our holding midfielder. We're going to play with 2 8s, and we're going to play with an attacking mid at the top of the diamond, which is our 10. And then we're going to play with 2 9s. In the last series that we talked about with 4-4-2, we had every number accounted for in that situation. Certainly we could do that in this, but 7s and 11s would be here in this central midfield, and for that structure piece for our kids and stuff like that, we don't want to confuse them anymore and having a 7-11 centrally when normally 7-11s are out wide. So to make it easier for our kids, right, we call these 2 8s, right? Which an 8 is usually a central midfielder anyways, right? 6 and 10 are normally there as well. And then having 2 central 9s, most kids that play in that position know what a 9 does and the responsibilities of a 9. So just to keep that structure and a little bit easier for them to understand, okay, this is my position and this is what I'm doing.
Cool. I think to your point about the roles, right? Like in the flat 4 that we did, like you were saying, these like zones that the numbers have are the reason that it's now 2 8s, and there's a zone that would be a true 9. That's the 2 players are going to be within that kind of realm. So I guess the thinking behind it, right, is, well, you're in that zone, so we'll just have 2 of you, doing the same job. One maybe slightly drifts left or drifts right, but I think that's another strength of a number system and a common language within the programs that we oversee in the club as a whole, right? There's no, we're trying to eliminate any confusion in, well, on my last team a 7 did blah blah blah, and on my last team a 3 did whatever it may be. So I think that's hopefully a strength of system that will enable our players to plug into whatever we ask them to do, right? Cool. Okay, so we've redrawn our 4-4-2 diamond, and we're actually just going to go through some attacking looks, reads, options for players on the ball that will lead to kind of us showing strengths of the system. So we've actually drawn a little dot over here. It's not 0.5. It's the 5 has the ball. So Jay, take us through kind of a pattern and what we might be looking for in this formation.
Basically, what in this setup, right? The flanks have the most space now, and we're really going to focus on trying to get our 2s and 3s involved in the attack now, with that space being there without technically any 7s and 11s on the board, right? So ideally, center backs are spread apart, right, where there's space in between, and now we can get our 3s and 2s a little bit higher up the field, and our 6 kind of comes into play a little bit to balance us out a little bit. So, we were just talking before, it kind of makes, triangles or diamonds throughout and that type of setup. And that's kind of the structure. We coach our kids and stuff is having those triangles and diamonds as we go. So
options on the ball.
Yeah. So ideally, ball goes from one center back to the other. And we're just, we're releasing that 3 or that 2, whichever it's going, right, as the ball travels, right? So if we have, 4 central midfielders that can play a part in this and find that space, ideally you could have a 9 come into this space as well, but really try to keep that space open as the ball travels forward, just to incorporate those numbers forward as we go. So if the ball goes from 4 to 5, now maybe our 3 advances higher up the pitch, and we either play into the 3 or combine with 6-8 to get the 3 involved in the attack that way. And now we have more numbers in the attack in these situations.
So how do you see this playing out in terms of an opposition setup as well? So I'm thinking of it now, even just looking at the board, how this setup could put doubt in the other team's mind. How would you? I've got an idea of where. Obviously, we've said this kind of space is hopefully for us to attack.
Right.
So I'm just going to exit rather than the numbers. If they had, let's say they had a back 4,
right.
And I'll just, for the sake of it, just go 4-4-2.
Okay.
I would assume, let's say this player gets attracted to potentially pressuring, like we kind of said before, 11 right. Pressure the 2,
right.
Which let's just get creates a lot of this space where now this defender has doubt. I would think, right? Now that the 2's going to break, does this left-sided defender for the opposition start higher? And in the assumption of the ball goes to feet, which leaves space in behind, do they sit back and remain disciplined in their back line, which, again, then you have space to get the ball to somebody's feet to drive
right.
at someone. So it's, while we, let's get rid of this. This may look, without the pink, this may look like, well, shouldn't we have someone here? It's ultimately a space that we want to manipulate the ball into right. rather than just plunking, right. kind of sticking a player there and being like, that's your right. role, right? It's almost that unbalance of.
Well, I think the big key too here is this as well, right? Because I coach on the girls' side. A lot of it is 4-3-3, right? So it's 1 center striker against 2 center backs. Now you're putting 2 center strikers against 2 center backs. It's just not a comfortable situation for a lot of center backs in that situation because they're used to playing against 1, right? So, if these players start to cheat, like you were just talking about, or, hey, I don't have anybody to mark, so I'm going to go into this space because this is the space that's open, right? Now I think you're just opening up space for your 2 center strikers to potentially get into as well in this type of shape and formation.
Yeah.
With that, so it's almost just like with everything else. It's a chess match, right? You make a move, and then I try to counter into that move that you just made into a situation. And also having these 4 central players, right, overloading the midfield, right, and making it difficult. Most teams play with 3 central midfielders. Even if you play in this situation with 4, right, you're still +1 in those situations, right? Even in a 4-4-2 where it's 4-4-4 technically, right? If you're not set up in this shape, right, it's going to be tough to determine who's your mark, especially if this sided 8, right, is more central or maybe even tucked in even further on the other side. Are we going to ask this player to tuck in, and does that alter? Does this make it more difficult to defend and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's what I was going to touch on. Actually, thinking about that, like you say, the chess match, and almost for coaches that may be watching, right, is notice what the other coach is communicating, because if they, let's say they're in a 4, right. It's rare, but they're in a traditional flat 4.
Right. If
he pinches those 2 players in to gain the overall advantage in the matchup here, so this is now 3 against 4. If we're talking right. 3 of our players against their 4, and they've pinched in to regain those right. numerical advantages. That again, that's another opportunity right. where, okay, here's my 2 and 3 can release, my 9 can maybe slide to be an option to feet, and we navigate this congested central area based on the other team reacting to a formation that maybe they haven't played against before. So for the coaches out there, it's noticing sure, we want to set up and we want to play our way, right? Like we want to put our style, our stamp on the game, but with it, it's the coaching within the game and recognizing maybe it's through a substitute, right? Like they've just added an extra 6 and now we don't have that numerical advantage, but where do we, maybe a different area of the field, we do regain that.
Yeah, you always got to be willing to counter their moves, right? Ideally, we would always love to play in our formation and our setup and our style. Unfortunately, the game doesn't allow that sometimes, and we have to change as well. So having these little variances of formations and stuff to tweak and go to at times is helpful. I've learned a lot through my mentors and my colleagues and stuff in terms of these pieces as well, which it's very helpful in tough times and situations where you feel like you are stuck or getting
like
going.
What do I need to change?
Yeah, sometimes throwing a change in there, and having this base down with your players is helpful, right? So when you do make changes during a game, it's not like heads explode and freak out mode and I don't know what I'm doing. You can make that substitution. We'll go into this. Please explain that to your teammates. Boom, it's done, and everybody kind of knows their role. So all good things to have.
That was the last bit that I was that I potentially would touch on, is having this base, the zone of the 8s, and if you were to change it up now and you needed those high and wide from 3, you haven't had a player playing in here and calling them a 7, and then all of a sudden saying, well, you're still a 7 but be out here, right? Like that's kind of another reason why that solid base and this numerical system has its advantages for our players is, coaches will go, earn their money with these little tweaks, but those nuances aren't necessarily passed on to the players where, our young players aren't going to panic or I don't know what that means and kind of overthink things. This is very simple and very almost binary of like, you're an 8, you're a 7, you're a 9, and it'll be on us to earn our corn in those small tweaks. So I think noticing the areas of field that you can take advantage of is going to set you up and your team up for success.
Absolutely.